being too optimistic on the appraisals of sites.
We see the greatest risk as being the compression of developer margins and the implications for the scheme after that as it goes through to completion.
Contracts failing during the construction process.
The developer is underprepared for the development, doesn't have the team in place, has not understood the possibilities and the possible issues with a development of the site.
Two angles to it. So the first one is the interior design perspective. When a developer is signing his contract with a contractor, we often see that he doesn't quite control what product comes out of that. So there's no specification agreed, no details agreed. So the risk there is that he goes into a project without understanding the product that he's getting at the end. So the contractor gets paid, leaves the site, and everybody's fairly happy, but then the developer still needs to ship those units. So for us, the risk is really making sure that you have a product that's right for the market, that's going to be better than the competitor next door, and that is going to sell your units faster. So that's on the interior design. And then on the marketing side, it's very similar. It's once again creating perception of your development and selling that to the market. And ideally selling it off plan or securing your reservations off plan. So it's really about controlling your exit plan.
Sure.
So these two things are probably where my clients, get caught, or they don't when they come to us. It would be very interesting to hear your perspectives.
I think the exit plan, you mentioning the exit plan at the end is very interesting. I'll come on to our experience sort of in a second, because we're at the front end, so you're talking about back end.
Yes.
However, releasing units or selling units at the end is often your profit or the developer's profit. So of course, if you've got a development of 12 units and 2 of them are your profit, and you can only get rid of 10 in the current flat market in London and the South East, that is a big problem. The greatest risk we find with developers is their, if you like, I don't know whether it's misplaced optimism or lack of due diligence. You might say that's a bit harsh, but sort of lack of thoroughness.
I agree, actually. Naivety sometimes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We work very closely with them to try and get the team at the time, which is usually the developer and us, whether it's a planning consultant or not, is to be real about the project, especially when you know that the profit may be in 1 or 2 flats, and that's so important. If you get halfway through the project and those 1 or 2 flats have been taken away by the local authority, and but the purchase agreement has been made or the option's been taken, then the developer's in trouble. So this is front end, but it relates to that sort of back end of sort of releasing units.
Yeah. Well, my experience of where problems lie in projects at the minute comes into the middle of that. So front end delivery and then trying to market the units. And the delivery that I'm finding, because of these kind of issues that you've already touched on actually, about cost not being accurate, about perhaps not being enough information for a project when it starts, the developer buying something from a contractor who doesn't really know what he's buying. I'm finding that contractors are being appointed where they're lowest cost, because that obviously helps the project stack up. The risk of that is that very recently I've had a lot of experience of contracts being determined where the contractor's been cancelled partway through the build. You can imagine the problems that this causes, and it's the buying cheap, buying yourself a problem, and actually you're going to be a year late, you're going to be way out of your costs, and you've got all of these delivery issues.
For us, I'd say probably the biggest risk is you've got developers going into schemes with lower margins, and there's pressure in all ends of the market, so even lenders are finding it harder to push capital out, so you're more inclined to consider a project which you may not have considered before. And I guess the biggest risk for everyone in that situation is that you have cost overruns and things which you weren't expecting. GDV's a bit lower than you expected, coming back to your point, I guess. And you end up in a situation where the developer's demotivated from a lender's perspective, and that could cause, I guess, potential issues with delays or the ultimate completion of the project.